this. All right, last night I uploaded a video, part 1. You can find the link to that video in the description of this video. Right after I shot that video, I shot part 2. And you're gonna see part 2. This is the preface to it, but it's been 12 hours. There's been some comments, and I thought I would take the time to read through some of the comments. Now, again, we're looking at a 9-piece collection. We need one more piece. You're looking at it here. What is it missing? Well, many people nailed it. It's missing a chronograph, and it's missing a piece of haute horology. So here are some great comments. Daniel Brete wrote a rose gold Daytona, FP Journe, or a Lange. So you get the haute horology with the Journe or the Lange. Now, as far as the rose gold Daytona, he's done a precious metal Daytona on the rubber strap, and it didn't suit him, so that's gone. Alex Bizzari, Grey Cat 99, both said Daytona. Scott C. said haute horology, specifically Lange. Levenger David said Daytona or an AP Royal Oak. These are all great choices, and when we see the main video, we'll see that these are some of the pieces that he is contemplating. Alan W. chose a Daytona yellow gold with a green dial. Good choice Daytona-wise, but we know that he couldn't handle the solid gold bluesy, the yellow solid gold bluesy, and so I think this would be a little bit too much for him. Watches Journey wrote Yachtmaster 40 AP Royal Oak. Well, the AP Royal Oak, very possibly. The Yachtmaster 40, beautiful watch, but for an endgame piece, not quite heavy hitting enough. Blue Shirt Buddha and Jeff Gyro both recognized that it needed some haute horology. Specifically, they chose Lange and Sun, Datograph or Zeitwerk. And my favorite comment came from Andy, and Andy chose, well, I'll tell you what, we'll wait till the epilogue to go into what Andy chose. And I also got an email from Frank himself, and judging by the undertones of the email, he was a little pissed. Look, I can be harsh sometimes, Frank, but I always try to be reasonable in my assessment. And when it comes down to it, I'm an opinionated little bastard. Now, let's get on to part 2. Welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin, and this is a custom video for Frank, his second video. And in video 1, link in the description to that video, we looked at his 9 watches in his 10 watch box. And we, in this video, want to decide what he should put in that 10th place. This is going to be his last watch, and we need a piece that's going to complete him and complete his collection and bring him utter and complete horological happiness and peace. You're right. All right. But we're going to try. And he writes, so now that I am down to my last spot, I love a lot of different brands, and I'm curious to see what your thoughts are. Below are the potential watches that would wrap up my collection. And he's got 6 watches and brands here. He's got Rolex, FP Journe, Patek, AP, H. Moser, and Vacheron, all right? And right off the bat, we can call 2 of those. Number 2, FP Journe, and number 5, H. Moser. Those are relatively new watches and watch brands, and you're talking your exit piece. You're talking that one final spot, and to not choose something from the Holy Trinity, I think would be a bad move. And the Holy Trinity, just so you know, is Patek Philippe, Audemars Piguet, and Vacheron Constantin. So one of those watches. And look, if you have a Holy Trinity watch, I think getting into FP Journe, Moser might make sense. Not something I would do, all right? Because I think those watches may go the route in the future of Frank Mueller and become kind of unfashionable. When it comes to FP Journe, that might happen after Journe himself passes. But they're kind of trendy right now, and they're relatively new brands. And, we're talking serious stuff here. Your last watch, all right? So I would choose something from the Holy Trinity. And I think it's a lot like a Tudor and Rolex. You know, you don't go straight for the Tudor unless you really want one. I get it, right? But ideally, you want to get your Rolex or your two Rolexes or whatever, and then you start dabbling around in the lesser kind of, you know, not quite as established stuff, right? And the same could be said, I think, of Journe and Moser. Now let's just see what he writes, okay? Number 2, FP Journe. He writes, what watch do you think will work best given my collection? Well, the chronomètre bleu, or chronometer blue. If you Americanize it, I think that would be the watch to have when you're talking FP Journe. And FP Journe was established in 1999. They make about 800 watches a year. And, you know, they're going for that, you know, really nicely made, and they're achieving it, watches. They make all their own parts. I mean, they're in-house to the bone. And they're sort of going for this artisan, you know, low production thing, all right? And, you know, people want the chronomètre bleu, all right? And so much so that they're buying other Journes they don't really want in order to get that. And that's crazy. And, you know, they're playing the same game, essentially, that Rolex is, and making sure that demand outweighs supply. And by doing that, demand only increases, and it's market manipulation. And I think that's happening with Moser as well, as we'll see with some of the pieces we're going to look at. But look, I mean, it's manipulation. It's a game. If you choose to be a part of it, you know, that's your thing. But you know, I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't buy pieces I don't want in order to get pieces I did want. I wouldn't pay premiums on pieces. And yeah, it's a bit of a game. And so yeah, that's FP Journe. And then H. Moser. Well, H. Moser, you know, they make about 1,500 watches a year, and they're, what I would say, their degrees lesser compared to something like FP Journe. And FP Journe, I think, is, you know, again, if you look at the actual object itself, you know, it's right up there with the Holy Trinity, but you got to look at the whole total package and the history and the heritage and how old these brands are. Okay, so if you look at everything, then you know, I think the Holy Trinity watches kind of come out on top. If you're just looking at the objects only, well, you know, you can make a good case that these are just as good as the Holy Trinity watches. But my whole point in talking about Moser is that, you know, the name, you know, mid 1800s, I think, is when the name was established. And, you know, it's been sold, and the name has been used and sold. And it's one of those revived brands. In 2002, a doctor and Moser's, I think his name was Heinrich Moser's great-grandson, and great-grandson was probably into it and co-opted more by this doctor, Dr. Lange. More, I think, because of the heritage. It's sort of like, come on board, I just need your name, dude. I just need your name. And that's what he got. And then it was sold in 2012. So they kind of built it up, cashed out, and, you know, it's 55 employees, and I'm sure they make great watches, but it's sort of this, buying a name and reviving a history kind of brand. And I'm sure they make great watches. In fact, I would bet on it. But again, not the kind of thing you would want to spend your last piece on. Absolutely not. I mean, this is the kind of watch brand you would tinker with if you had everything else. You had all your Rolexes and your Holy Trinity watches. You're kind of like running out of stuff to experiment with. So yeah, just cull those right off the start. Just get rid of those. I mean, I would talk about the piece he wants for the Moser, and I should. I really like the Endeavor Tourbillon, he says. And, you know, that's a limited edition. They've got a bunch of different colors, and they've got like a black one and a blue one and a green one. And it looks a lot like his Movados. So, I mean, you can kind of see his sort of taste. He likes these like ultra minimal dials, black, deep, sort of onyx-like dials, and yeah. These are limited edition pieces, 50 of each color, one, only 20, right? That's the one people would probably go crazy over. And again, it's limited edition, and it's market manipulation and customer manipulation. And look, we're talking an 80,000 USD watch here, this tourbillon, and my God, $80,000 for a Moser. I think it's a horrible proposition, and I would avoid both of those brands. All right, if you must go with one, I'd prefer Journe, but yeah, Moser is nah. All right, we'll go back up to number one, Rolex. All right, the 116500L in white dial. That's the Panda, the Daytona. So he says, I was thinking of the Sky Dweller, but I owned one and I felt it was a bit tall, bulky, and more of a dress watch only. Love the complication in dial though. Yeah, the Sky Dweller is an interesting watch. It's basically, as I've said in another video, a Datejust on steroids with a G&T function. All right, and it's sort of the jet setters, high flyers, international man's watch, and the guy in the back of the plane. All right, not the front of the plane, the back of the plane, being flown. Just dwelling in the sky and on a luxury shopping trip to Paris or something like that. All right. So yeah, he's had the Sky Dweller, but he's thinking about the Panda Daytona. And look, you're talking your last spot. This is what I would do personally. You guys know that. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Rolex watches, and a lot of the other pieces we're gonna look at are just not my kind of watches. So this is personally what I would do. All right. But this is probably not what you should do if you want a more well-rounded collection. And so subjectively, this. Objectively, no. I don't think you should get a Daytona. But it would give you the chronograph, all right? But we can get a better chronograph for you, all right? Now, we skipped number 2. That was FP Journe. Number 3, Patek. I owned a Calatrava 5227R, but it did nothing for me. They don't do anything for me either. I wish I could like them, but I just can't. They just kind of bore the hell out of me. I tend to avoid super complicated watches in general, which Patek is known for. What Patek do you think will work in my collection? All right, well, the 5711 or the, what is it called? The Aquanaut, okay? Which would you be better off going for? Well, the Aquanaut's easier to get, cheaper, not quite as dressy, and not nearly as much punch as the Nautilus, the 5711. Now, a lot of people are probably listening and saying that's crazy. That would be really expensive to go for. But he's thinking about getting an $80,000 Moser. Well, you can put that money towards the Patek, and that is probably one of the hottest watches. And it is an A-list celebrity watch. I mean, you don't see those watches on people's wrist, period. And if you do, it's like seeing Tom Cruise, Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt. All right. All of the other watches, including most Rolexes, I mean, it's like seeing Mickey Rourke. Kind of cool. You'd be like, whoa, but totally different than the 5711. And that would be the hardest hitting, probably the best exit piece, period. Okay. So that's what I think you should do. All right. That's what I think you should do. And you're going to be paying a lot for it. But this is your last watch, and you've spent a lot of money on watches, so I think you've got the cash to do it. And if that watch doesn't satisfy you, then satisfaction is not an option for you. It's just unavailable, okay? But that would be a great watch, and it's probably would be the hottest watch of the Holy Trinity watches, of which you need a Holy Trinity watch, I think, okay? So that's my vote right there, all right? But let's continue. Number 4, AP. I like the Royal Oak or Royal Oak Chronos. I'm attracted to the rose gold bracelet, but that watch might receive too much attention when on the wrist. It would be like your solid gold yellow bluesy. People look at your wrist a lot. And he continues on talking about this. If I go this route, I will probably stay with a stainless steel model. And so the gold is like a $62,000 USD watch, and the steel would be half that, 30,000. And look, it would be a cool watch, beautiful dial, interesting bracelet, very iconic design. AP is sort of a one model watch brand. The character of the watch doesn't resonate with me, and whereas Patek is sort of old money, AP is more going for sort of new money and the really expensive service cost. And to me, it's sort of like that's sort of part of the image they're projecting is like, yeah, we're for the ultra rich and we've got outrageous service costs. And I'm sorry, you can't afford it. You're not AP material. F off, And it's sort of that. I kind of respect Rolex because the service costs are expensive, but they're not crazy. They make sense. And AP, it's like, yeah, well, you bought an AP, so you're going to bend over for us. Okay, you're going to bend over. I mean, you knew this coming in. We're AP. And I don't like that character of the watch, and a lot of people that buy it are really looking for, it's a watch I think you buy to impress other people. And I think it's the weakest. And I think it's the weakest of the Holy Trinity. And so, and another thing, if I can say another complaint about Royal Oaks, is they look industrial and tough, but they're not. And a lot of them are 50-meter water resistant. And look, I mean, they look the part. They're like a tough looking wuss of a watch. Whereas a Datejust looks kind of wussy, but it's tough as nails, right? And so if they were just to make their watches as tough as they look, I don't know, it's just from design to the kind of customers it attracts and the character of the watch, it just doesn't appeal to me. So this isn't what I would do, and I think the Patek 5711 would be much classier. And again, you're talking your exit watch. Do you really? I mean, Patek is Patek, right? It's the top of the top, and of Patek, the 5711 is a hugely desired watch. So I think that's where I'd be putting my money. So yeah, AP not for me. Number 6, Vacheron Overseas. Now this is a good number 2. All right. I like their Chrono Generation 3 Blue the most. All right, so this is a beautiful watch. It has a beautiful blue dial, and he doesn't have a chronograph, and it's a $33,000 watch, and it's a column wheel chronograph. They've got the Vacheron cross on the column wheel, and it's a display case back. Beautiful watch. Not really that much money compared to some of the other pieces. I mean, think about this. Would you want to for 33,000 USD, would you want this watch, or would you want for 80,000+ the Moser Tourbillon? I mean, God. All right. But anyway, I just can't get enough of bashing the Tourbillon. And not the Tourbillon, but the Moser. All right. All right. Anyway, back to this. So this would be a great option, and it would give you, that functionality of having a chronograph and buttons to push, which are kind of fun, and it would fit nicely in the collection. But again, this is your last piece, and because of that, you got to go out with a bang, and you can't go out with a bigger bang than a 5711 Patek. I mean, that's what you should go for. All right. And if you were saying, well, I'm going to get some more pieces down the road, then I would be pointing to this VC probably, but you're not. And so you got to get that Patek. All right. That's my final choice. All right. And second choice would be the VC. And that's objectively speaking. Subjectively speaking, I would be going with the Panda, the Daytona, okay, because I just like Rolexes more. And he writes, please let me know if you have any other ideas that would gel with my collection. Sorry for the long email, but this is my journey up to this point. I look forward to hearing your views and perspective. And thank you, Frank, for this request for a custom video. I appreciate it. Hopefully this helps. And guys, you know what he's thinking about. You've heard his 6 choices that he was kind of thinking about. I culled 2 immediately. Was I right in doing that? And eventually I settled on the Patek because he's going out, he's got to go out with a bang. Do you agree with me, viewers? If so, you know, let me know why. And more so, if you don't and you have better ideas for Frank, please put those ideas in the comment section. Help him out, because this is the biggest decision of his life. So we got to make sure he makes the right one. Epilogue. All right, so Andy in the comment section of the first video had one of the best suggestions, a Patek 5990. That's a Nautilus, but it has a complication. It has a travel time complication, and it's a great suggestion, and it sort of led me to think, hey, you know, he could get his chronograph and his Nautilus. He would have the chronograph function, the Nautilus, the hot horology, the Patek, and that would be the 5980, and beautiful watch, and it would check off so many boxes for Frank. Now, the regular straight Nautilus 5711 has a beautiful simplicity to it, and he seems to appreciate that in his no-date sub. So I think if he wants something more minimal, the 5711, but if he wants that chronograph, then the 5980, or if he prefers the travel time, then Andy's suggestion, the 5990. So there you go, great suggestions. Take care, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.